Hey YouTube, it's Seems here with an Overwatch discussion video. So this topic is going to be called Communication Concerns in the Future, and in this game I'm going to be playing some Winston on the PTR since I'm currently changing my sensitivity, lowering it a little bit. So by doctor's orders, I've prescribed myself some Winston gameplay. But the most important thing about this video obviously is what I want to talk about, and that is, of course, communication in the gaming industry. I mean specifically for Overwatch, and the concerns that surround the game and the future of the game itself. And the conclusion I'm going to draw is pretty positive, but there's a lot of information to go into that conclusion. And I'll start with, in the past few weeks we have gotten a huge amount of changes and a huge amount of information about Season 2, about future balance changes. Obviously this is the PTR patch, so I am playing the new version of the game that might not go live, but a lot of the changes probably will, where they change like 8 or 9 heroes. And something that I've seen from basically the beginning of Overwatch's life cycle, or just life, is that there has been a huge amount of communication from the developers about basically everything. Think of every controversy that has existed and has been in Overwatch, and it's been addressed or resolved in some way. And one of the original reasons why I wanted to make this video was because of the 20-tick server issue that was changed this last week. So it was fixed, and apparently now I'm not a network engineer, but the netcode is actually apparently better than every other popular FPS game in the market, which is pretty incredible. And it's something that's interesting because a lot of folks are giving criticism to Blizzard for the fact that, you know, this isn't going to be a competitive game with 20-tick servers, blah blah blah. The hit registration is absolute shit. You know, this is dumb. And Blizzard fixed it. They fixed it quickly. They probably planned on fixing it the moment it became an issue. And we've seen that with every problem. We've seen that in the newest patch, the hero balance. I'm going to go over that specifically in the future when it actually goes live. But there are changes to Genji, who is considered a problem hero, to Zenyatta. Heroes like Mei were buffed. Mercy, who's pretty weak now, was buffed. And I mean, there's so many changes that were made that make it seem as if Blizzard really has a pretty good understanding of the health of the game and the balance. And there's a few issues, perhaps a few people who think they're balancing too much or stuff. That's part of what I want to talk about. And it's one thing that you'll find is, for anything you do, if you want to be an athlete, if you want to have a good body, if you want to be a great speaker, you want to give speeches, if you want to do your homework assignment, like, for everything you do, you're going to be able to improve it. There's not going to be perfection. Even a great product can be improved, and even for everything, like I tell my team, even though we're a good team, obviously we're a great team, we can be improved. And you might say that's like sort of a no-dur kind of thing, but you have to recognize that when people like me, for example, I think Overwatch is a great game. I really enjoy playing it. I have very high hopes for the future, but I will criticize the game because I really want it to become even better. We do that because we want the game to succeed. We're happy and excited about the future. Some people are there to criticize the game in a negative way, and they don't really give much thought to it. You know, people who are just like, oh, why don't you buff this hero? This is the best hero in the game. Or why did you nerf my main? You know, you're horseshit, go kill yourselves, etc. And these horrible toxic things. But there's a difference between people who illogically spout off nonsense and get mad versus the people who criticize and talk about the game and want to see it grow. And the nice thing is that for those people, because they exist, the critics, the real critics who care about the game, exist in every game. Many developer teams are sometimes not aligned with what the community wants. They will, and here you can see my sense is pretty bad. Anyway, they will basically do their own thing and not listen to the community, and that'll be that. Some games with big communities don't even have developer support, and that might be because the game itself, you know, was made 15 years ago, aka Smash Bros. Melee. But there are so many games in which the developers will change things and do things that people just can't explain why they're doing them. Whatever data and statistics the developers are looking at does not align with what the community perceives as what the changes need to occur, and it's unfortunate. And I think Counter-Strike is a game where it's a fantastic competitive game. A lot of people like it, like playing it, like watching it. It's a great esport. And unfortunately for Counter-Strike players, the developer team on Valve, occasionally they communicate. I remember the R8 was a pretty big issue. But generally they'll be very, very quiet, and they don't talk about their iteration process. And, you know, a company that I think is very good about this sort of thing is League of Legends and Riot Games. They do a pretty good job of discussing things. Sometimes they do things that aren't aligned with what the community as a whole want, and they probably do that because they feel they're justified. But I really have to give a shout out to the Blizzard Overwatch dev team, because it seems as if nearly every major criticism has been addressed in some way. Like, the only major criticism that I can feasibly think of right now that was resolved in a way that perhaps didn't satisfy the community would have been the recent Summer Games thing. The fact that certain skins you have to get them out of the boxes, which means that your coins aren't as valuable. And I think that's almost a marketing thing. I'm not sure if that was actually the developer team as opposed to Blizzard, you know, whoever controls the money. And you have to recognize that there are hundreds, I mean thousands of people who work at the company as a whole, and they will, when something ships to Overwatch, they will have conflicting opinions. But they will all say, this is, you know, this is the product that was agreed on, this is what Blizzard ships. And so they'll say publicly, they'll be like, oh, this is a great idea, I support this. But some of the people who might even be the representatives of public things that happen might not actually want that to happen. Which, I feel like people give the devs so much crap, and specific devs too, and I see it in other games as well, when it's just like absolutely horrible. And I mean, between Jeff Kaplan and Lyra and all the people, I mean, I don't know how to pronounce your name, the community manager, there are so many people on the dev team for Overwatch who have communicated on the boards what their plans are. They have made improvements to so many things, to balance, to the 60-tick servers, to I'm very certain they are making improvements to spectator. They hinted at it before, and I'm excited to see where the game will go, even though I do have some disagreements about what the game is doing. And heck, I'm not a game dev. I have some experience in the field, but I don't have enough experience to have all the understanding that they have. So perhaps some of the criticisms I have and some of the things I would like to see changed are actually wrong. But it's by discussing these things that you can sort of improve the game, or at least try to improve the game. And one of the big things is obviously that the Season 1 has ended now, and I hope you all had a decent time, had the rank you wanted, and if not, you can improve the next season. And speaking of improvements, there are a lot of improvements that Blizzard has made. So the skill rating is now, it goes from 1 to 5,000 instead of 1 to 100. That's because a normalized skill rating is kind of hard to achieve, and the developers realized that, and as a result, you know, it wasn't as successful. And there's a bit of a psychology in the next thing that they did. There's 7 tiers now, and you go from bronze up to Grandmaster, I think, are the 7 tiers. So it's probably bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, Grandmaster. And you can make it into one of those tiers, and up to diamond, you don't drop out of the tier. So there's a psychological benefit to being, I'm a gold player, you know, I can probably say I'm gold, as opposed to saying, you know, I'm number 58 or whatever. It doesn't feel the same. And while I'm going on about this, make sure to check out the actual video that Jeff Kaplan posted about the Season 2 changes, because there are more than I'm describing here, and they are very important, and it's worth watching and getting all the context. So there's a rank delay now, and there's inactivity, which is fantastic. So you can get kicked out of if you don't play, which is great for a leaderboard. And group rating was adjusted as well, so you no longer can queue with, I think the equivalent is a person who's 10 skill rating below you. So these are all changes that people were frustrated about. Now understand that you're likely, if you're very, very high MMR, you're a high skill rated player, you're very likely going to play people who might be 10 levels below you, but that's just because of how matchmaking works. Some other changes that happened were top 500 now requires at least 50 games. So I haven't seen it myself, but I'm assuming that if you had a really, really lucky, good win streak, you could probably get a huge amount of points very early on, and as a result, basically be considered a top 500 player and highly skill rated, and you might be skilled, but you barely played any games, so it's hard for the system to actually measure whether or not that's entirely accurate. And I mean, besides that, there's another really big change, which is so one thing that happened pretty commonly in high-level play as well, and professional play, it's happening very often, is tiebreakers. For payload hybrid maps, there will now be a tiebreaker. You go to time bank. So tiebreaker and sudden death is completely gone. You'll remember that in the beta version of the game, they had a one path map tiebreaker, and that was the decider, and no one liked that. Then they tried the coin flip, and no one liked that. So they're getting rid of it entirely, and they're trying to eliminate ties by adding the time bank system from the assault or the 2 CP map, whichever you prefer. And they're adding that time bank system to the payload maps, which I think is fantastic. I think time bank has actually made the 2 CP maps pretty interesting and fun to watch too, to a degree. So yeah, I mean, that's not the only change those aren't the only changes they've made, but be sure to check out, I'll make sure to link the video itself and link about the 60-tick description as well, and then of course the patch itself. Because, guys, there have been so many things that Blizzard has done and that the developer team has done on the surface to improve the game and just to make sure it's a better game. And one of the most important things is that for all of these decisions that they've made, and before they've made these decisions, they have spoken with us, the community, about it. They've asked for feedback. They probably look at their own stats. They check Reddit occasionally. I mean, I know they probably, I would assume that the majority of the dev team who actually uses Reddit personally, like individually on a day-to-day basis, probably checks the Overwatch subreddit as well, because that's just a very human thing to do. And they've also made comments about it before. And they're just really, really involved with the community. They communicate a lot, and it's something that's pretty commendable. And the level of communication that we've seen from the Overwatch dev team, in my opinion, and note, I'm only 22 years old. I've played a good amount of games, but I probably haven't played as many games as some of my viewers. I would still say though that the Blizzard dev team has had some of the best communication out of any developer team I've ever seen, by far. You know, I was noting that Riot Games is a lot, but like Overwatch is kind of blowing it out of the water here, and that's really exciting to see. Because me personally, again, going back to criticism and concerns, I think the game still has a way to go. I think it's a fantastic game. It's easy to learn, sort of hard to master, has a team aspect, so it has a lot of qualities that make it good as an esport. But I think spectator mode specifically, and viewing the game, and the way the objectives work, and to a certain degree how the maps work, it's still going to take a while. Or at least I think so. Perhaps other people disagree, and I'm sure that the devs have their own thought, like, publicly, and as one dev team, and they probably have their own thoughts individually, and I'm sure that folks on the esports team as well have their own individual thoughts, because there's, again, a lot of individual differences of opinions that go into actually shipping the product. And because of this communication we've seen in the past, I have utmost faith. I mean, I can only remember the most recent, and the most recent examples are fantastic about things that they've communicated on and shipped out, you know, with really fast speed, to be honest, too. And considering all of these improvements they've made within only a few months of official launch, I'm really excited to see how the game goes. You know, spectator mode, it's kind of lame. It's probably going to be improved on. I'm guessing we'll see some iteration of perhaps an asymmetrical view, or something that really, really condenses the UI so you barely see anything, and your vision isn't obstructed, because I think that would be a way to view the game in third person. And that kind of speculation, though, is, I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty excited to see the future of the game, and I guess that's kind of what I want to wrap it up on, is the fact that because we've had so much communication from Blizzard for nearly everything, again, the only controversy that I guess was never resolved, and I don't necessarily blame them for it, is the summer skins controversy. And personally, I'm a little bit biased. I really don't care about skins. I care about esports, game balance, etc. I don't care about the aesthetic stuff that much. So many other people might feel much more strongly about myself than I do. But to me, the representation and the amount of effort and communication Blizzard has had to implement or discuss changes and then implement those changes to increase the experience and benefit all of the players, the community, both the high tier and the low tier, etc. Makes me very excited for the longevity of the game, for, you know, every time, for every reason, for many reasons, for every time that we see the dev team respond about something very important or vital. It makes it seem as if the company themselves play the game and love the game, and that's great, because we as the players and the viewers, we love the game. You know, this is one of the most fun games I've probably played ever, and yeah, it's probably, I have certain other games that have very special places in my heart, but this is a really, really amazing game, and obviously the dev team cares about it very much, and as a result, they communicate with us about pretty much everything, about the good things, about the bad things, and they're working on iterating and improving their game. I don't even want to call it a product. Improving their game and the experience for all of the users it has, and as a result, you know, the future is looking pretty bright. So if for whatever reason you're on this channel and you've never played Overwatch before, I have no idea why you'd be on this channel, but if you haven't, then this is definitely my recommendation to play the game. It's fast-paced, it's very fun, it has mechanical depth, it has strategic depth, and easier to play heroes if you're not mechanically or APM inclined. And as of right now, I'm pretty optimistic about how it's going to last as an esport as well. So there are just a lot of reasons to get into Overwatch, and, you know, the hats off to the dev team for all of the communication that they've had with us, because that's really why I myself and probably a lot of other players have so much faith in them. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I don't want to sound like too much of a preacher and preach the Bible of Blizzard, because I do think there are some criticisms, and I butt heads with actually a few friends of mine who work at Blizzard there about the direction certain things are going. But for example, I was talking to a buddy of mine about balance, and then he's like, oh, you know, like, it's balanced fine, let the metagame develop. But then all of a sudden, they changed the metagame, and then they changed some of the heroes that I figured were a little bit OP, which was cool. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this video, though. You know, communication concerns in the future. Communicating about anything just helps it grow, and it helps you learn more about the other people you're dealing with and the thing itself you're working with, and that's awesome for improving, and then, of course, the future. All right, seriously, though, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.